Okay, my kindergartners, so we are going to be making some colored backgrounds for our landscapes that we will be working on in the next couple of days of art class. So today we are going to be starting out by talking about warm and cool colors, and you're going to have to pick if you want to use warm colors, which are your orange, yellows, and reds, or cool colors, which are your blues, purples, and greens. They should be separated in a container at your table, but you have to be careful because sometimes they get mixed up. So it's important for us to remember what our warm colors are and what our cool colors are. You are going to be given a placemat at your table that will go under your paper. We want to have the paper landscape view, so it should be the long way across, not the long way up and down. So notice too, when I have this right in the middle of my placemat, it will fit in there perfect so that no edges are touching the table, because we don't want to get any water or any messy stuff on the table. You're going to be using these bleeding tissue papers to make your project today. We want to be careful and not get our hands wet, because what will happen is some of this tissue paper will stain our hands if they're wet. You can try to wash your hands, but that stain won't come out for a couple of days. So what we're going to do first is you're going to have water in trays that look like this. Try your best to keep the water in the tray. I'm going to wet my brush, and I'm first going to wet a section on my paper. Okay. You don't have to wet the whole paper, just a small area first. When you're getting your paper wet, notice how I'm not touching those wet spots with my hand, and my hand is on my paintbrush far enough that I'm not going to get any water on my hands. You are then going to want to grab a colored square that's either warm or cool, and you want to make sure you grab one at a time. So I'm going to place that on there, and I'm not going to press that down with my hand, because then my hand's going to get ink on it and it's going to get wet. So I'm going to add a little water to my brush again, and I'm going to press it down with my brush. And you'll notice when you do that, sometimes you'll notice the color coming out of the squares. My friends, that is okay. That is what we want. These squares are going to fall off our paper next week and create these really cool colors. Okay. So my friends, now I'm going to start to add some more squares, and I probably don't need to wet my paper a second time in this area, because if I add too much water in one spot for too long, it will ruin the paper. So I want to first put another colored square, probably a different color, on top. Remember, we're going to press it with our brush, so water that brush down, press it with your brush, not your hands. Okay, so I'm going to go in, and let's say this happens. Ooh, I can see this is really dry in here still and just popping out. So now I need to go back in with water. We want these to stick to the paper really good. Otherwise, our color will not come off. Okay, so you'll see I went on top of this square a little bit with this square, and that's okay. What will happen is those colors will mix, and when we have colors that mix with each other, that's called blending. All right, so now I'm going to place another square on top. Oh, that one has two squares attached. I don't want that, so I got to make sure I take off the other square. Otherwise, it will be too hard to place them on there. So notice I didn't push on the paper. I'm going to use my brush, and I'm going to keep dipping it in some water once in a while when it looks like my square is a little too dry. So you'll notice I did a couple times go off the edge of my paper, and that's okay, because look, it got on my placemat and not on my table. We want to make sure we don't get these on our classroom tables. So look at, friends, now we have some areas that are dry that I haven't added wetness to yet. So I want to do that and place a square. Don't press it with my brush. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to fill up this entire paper. Okay, my friends, I went through, I looked around, all my squares are flat on my paper, there's no paper showing.